Were you a part of the public tour? If so, I have just evacuated your tour guide. Don't panic. Now, your inability to follow evacuation orders is truly astounding, but I need you to pay attention. First off, walk through that door. Excellent. You have already exceeded my expectations. Wait, it's dark in there. You might trip. Let me light your path. The door requires 2 people to reopen. Proceed to my security manager's office. Now I presume you know how buttons work. Impressive. If you continue like this, I might just hire you to mop the floor. Now scurry along, and you will reach the elevator to the exit. It's simple. I know it's difficult not to stare at the scientific wonder that is Lightmatter, but the launch event is over. Don't worry, my facility is sturdy. Get to the elevator. Excellent. The elevator will take you directly to our outpost. When you get there, journalists will immediately try to put words in your mouth. But stand strong and tell them that Virgil, the CEO of Lightmatter Technologies, saved your life and that the side effects are under control. Goodbye.
Hello, my name is Ulrik and I'm the audio designer for Lightmatter. I've been working on the music and all the effects, all the sound in the game. Yeah, the last level was Virgil's office. There was a lot of noise and you are crashing with this elevator into this level. So to make a contrast from all the noise in the previous level, it's actually pretty quiet in this level. So you start up with sound.
So, I remember this level is actually the first level we really decorated. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this was the time when we had just decided that, okay, this part of the game will be in mine. And I was researching how mines looked like and noticed a lot of tracks, obviously. And in this decoration, defining the mine style, because this was the first level that was in the mine that we decorated, I had to come up with something that would just dictate the rest of the mine levels. And I saw these moving platforms and turning things, and I thought, how does that make sense in any way to be a real life thing? And there was thoughts about how electricity flows and how they regulated with switches that turn around that were kind of similarly, and then I thought about how they redirect trains like that, and thus rail track shifters were born because, well, they had to redirect minecarts somehow through this huge cavernous hole in the mountain. So I decided they had to turn the tracks.
And so in this level, once again, sees the coal now from the bottom of the in the mine. And it was important for us to show the core again because it's such a big part of the story of this game, and you're gonna see it throughout the whole game in different places. Also, like having a huge beam, science beam extending through the whole facility. It's just
Yeah, and I guess one of the things we talked about was also the city. Having this land that you keep moving towards. Like,
yeah.
This was where we actually started building the look before, because even though you see it in the upper levels of the facility first, we didn't have those levels built at that point. I was decorating this one, and we had to come up with how it looks like. And we always knew it connects some crystals. At some point it was 3 with 1, but not anymore. But I knew that there had to be a crystal that's huge, or an amalgamation of crystals that are connected. But one crystal turned out to be a bit more readable, and we had to suspend it and give it a certain look that would be recognizable after having played puzzles for an hour. So it was one of the bigger props. So something interesting, and given that we already had the light beams that walk around with the photoconnectors.
So this level had an interesting story. When we created first, we used Lego. What was the point of the idea of this level?
When we were designing this level, we were very much in the phase of making puzzles where the player has to predict that some things will happen. So the basic concept of this puzzle was leaving a lamp in the dark and predicting that you might need it later.
Yeah, because we saw some players, some players had a hard time understanding that it's only the player who can understand the shadows. Like, you can leave something out in the shadow and then get back to it later. So you can raise a lamp and then change some other part of the level, and then depending on where you use that to actually solve the puzzle.
It turned out that this puzzle was much harder than we originally thought it would be. Even after we worked on the readability of the puzzle and really made everything easy to understand, then it was still difficult for people to play. And in the beginning, they could spend 15-20 minutes completing this puzzle.
Yeah, and one thing when you design puzzles is very difficult to know if the puzzle itself is difficult or if it's just the readability of it, like if it is too cluttered. I remember when we made it in the first iteration, it was very difficult to read, and like, where's the goal, where I'm supposed to go. And over time we kind of like took things away and made it simpler and simpler to focus on the core part of the puzzle. And now it's this level where we actually just have like 2 main parts of the level, where we have a lamp with the moving platform, and then we have a lamp on the other side, and there's a gap, so you cannot get those 2 lamps next to each other. You have to figure out how can I use them to. Yeah, so one element in this game is the stage-based puzzles, and for a long time we were very unsure if we actually wanted it or not, because for us, Lightmatter is a game where you have to think and like solve puzzles, but doing it should not be the difficult part. So even if you're not good at like first-person controls, you should still be able to do a puzzle if you can like think and solve the puzzle up in your head. The controls should not be what is preventing you from doing it. That being said, we also thought it was like too obvious not to have moving shadows. So I guess this level is like a good way to kind of have something where you have to understand that a shadow coming close to you and you have to kind of jump over it while it approaches you. But doing it should not be too difficult. But I guess you came up with this initial concept, and you have
My name is Ellen, and things here are... Okay. First off, I am really proud to be an engineer at Lightmatter Technologies. But I don't know what the truth is anymore. People are getting sick left and right. Tape recorders have been banned. And now, until launch, all outside communication is prohibited. Not only that, leave permits are invalid. Virgil and Arthur, the pioneers of science. I can't believe they're doing this. They've been fighting each other for weeks, so I knew something was wrong. But I never thought they would lock down the... Ellen here. I don't know what to do. I was sleeping in the lab when...
So this was one of the levels that were originally built with Lego. I think I had a time where I designed a lot of Lego puzzles, like with things that were turning around, and this was one of the puzzles that we thought would fit the game, and also one of the older puzzles that we had a long time ago.
Difficult.
Yeah. So we more or less made this concept in Lego, and then we took it further into the game itself. And there were some difficulties with designing this puzzle. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
There were actually quite a lot. I think this is also one of the levels that has went through most iterations over the time. As you mentioned, it was one of the first puzzles, so we've had a lot of time to... We've always believed in this puzzle and thought that it could become good in the end.
Yeah.
So it has been in the hands of actually quite a few people who has made it work better and better over time. Like for the setting of the puzzle, we knew that like the main structure of the thing is the spinning thing in the middle of a round. But how could we make any sense of it? Because it didn't look okay. It had the kind of the shape of a fan with only 4 blades.
Yeah.
But it kind of had to make more sense to fit the facility. So Steyer came up with the idea of making it into a fan area. Previous puzzle. Kind of make a theme out of it behind the scenes. Yeah, there's like why is the player jumping around in fans? It's one of those levels that kind of doesn't make sense. It's rotating.
So this was one of the many wall/sensor levels that we made, one of the better ones, and we tried to like use this sensor in a new way. Can you explain how we did this concept with lights and sensors?
Yes. So the idea is that the ability to like jam a gate, like keep it open and kind of like swap the lamps around, like what lamp. The idea of bringing one lamp to the puzzle by jamming the gate, basically. The 2 lamps. And also I remember the interesting part from the beginning was the idea that you have to keep holding the lamp on the sensor while you walk through the gate.
Yeah.
So this puzzle is a product of a phase in the puzzle development where we were focused a lot on the light sensor. We had to come up with a puzzle that utilizes the light sensor in different ways. This puzzle actually started out as something completely else. I kind of imagined a face with instead of eyes, there were just holes in like a wall that you would shine through with a portable lamp, and then obviously you have 2 circular cones of light shining through the wall into the inside. And then you would have to maneuver the portable lamp around to hit 2 light sensors on the other side of the wall and find the perfect alignment so you could open that door or gate. But it proved to have some problems with the perspective. You couldn't see how the light cones were hitting walls behind the wall with the face. So I kind of scrapped that idea and came up with the idea of locking a portable lamp in place by having it connect to a sensor
So for this level, it's the sensor on the right controls the moving platform on the right. So if I could extend or move a lamp out on a platform and have it pointed directly at the sensor once it hit its peak, keep it in place. Yeah, kind of be like in that position. I thought it was a idea. So I went back to my drawing board and tried to come up with a solution of how to extend it, because that was way too simple for a puzzle. And I have to be honest, I don't remember how I did it, but somehow I ended up creating this puzzle that really utilizes all its elements really well. It's one of my favorite puzzles in the game.
I think it's the whole company's favorite. All the developers call it.
So this is yet another level that was made originally with Lego. We had a session where we wanted to have a lot of things turning and moving around. Before we had kind of these fans that were rotating, and this is kind of the same but just rotating more like in a square, so to speak. We built the level in Lego where you had these buttons you can push and these kind of platforms or wagons that you can move around, and you put the lamps on top of them and then you send them away. And it was interesting because the lamps that you send away, you need to be careful what direction they are pointing, because you need the light from the lamps. So the whole idea was that you have multiple lamps on platforms and you put them and you send them away, and hopefully you don't die in the process. So when we made the level, it was kind of confusing and quite complex in Lego, but then we got some of the rest of the team to come and playtest it, and clearly there was something in this level that was interesting, because we could see that just figuring out what direction to point the lamps was interesting for them. And when you play the game, or when you play the level from above, like with Legos, you have a much better overview, so oftentimes the puzzles are much easier in Lego format. But here it turned out that this level was actually quite difficult. So we knew we had something, and then we started making it in Unity.
Yeah, just a simple, like,
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to foresee how you would place it. Yeah. And there's also something about, since it's a square pattern they move in, they also come back to it. So you have to calculate, how do I need to place this? Whatever it was. And actually, this level now consists of two puzzles, and the one Gustav just talked about is the original one, and that's the one that you'll find upstairs. So the downstairs one, that only has two platforms in their own patterns, and their own tracks. And that was kind of, we felt like we needed a primer, because through testing we found out that the original one was too difficult.
Yeah.
People couldn't, like there was, I don't know if it was an information overload, but it just simply didn't have the overview.
It was both a big puzzle, like physically it was quite big, but also understanding this concept, and it was just a lot of new things at the same time.
Yeah. It is also, it tricks the player,
Yeah.
in especially the last part of it. So yeah, designing the primer.
Yeah, I think this level is a good example of how we structured the facility, how we structured the levels in the game, and it all went back to design, implemented basically all puzzles in the game. At that point, we were like connecting the dots and and really structuring the narrative, because the narrative came after the puzzles and after the mechanics in this game. And we basically put all our puzzles up on a huge board, almost 40 puzzles, and structured which parts of the facility they belong to. We knew that we wanted a progression where we go through like the mine, factory part, and the lab, and that was basically based on like how well does this level fit for that. This level seemed like a tunnel we were walking through. we knew that the structure of the game would be linear, but in order to break it up a bit, we used this level as kind of a breather or like a contrast. Okay, there's actually something that we're turning back to. And that was just to spice it up a bit, so it wouldn't only go from A to B all the time, but go back. And I think this level is also a good example of how.
Yes, so this is the second level puzzle using the proper light beam tutorial that you just went through. And in this puzzle, we really wanted to emphasize the and also get the sense, learn light beam in a certain position and then return to it later. You know, use the result of its placement later. It's okay to make the light beam places, and you have to use some places. So it is a lot of back and forth, at least for the first light beam, where you have to place them in the correct spots to be able to first retrieve a moving platform, and then later on use that same moving platform to progress through the level and connect whatever point the regulator placed.
Where you have to leave the light room, I knew that this spot had to feel somehow special. And at that point in decorating levels, I had landed on this recipe where we placed tiles, we placed things that matter and all the important objects, and that was about it. Giving some sense of the levels, but this one I felt like it had to be something different because the tiles were getting boring. So I decided that okay, this whole middle section of a level, that is going to be a very, very big machine. Like so big that I almost don't need to decorate the whole level. So it had this tunnel thing in the middle that you had to go through, and I thought, why don't we make it amusement park style with a lot of lights and
So this level puzzle, whatever you want to call it, puzzle, is a bit different from the rest of the levels in the game. It was one of the actually easiest ones to design and build because it solves itself as soon as you kind of go through it. And of course there were some design alignments and features that had to be done for you to connect beams and so on, but once we kind of made it and tested it internally, we found out that it had something that the other stuff have. It had a lot of inspiration and connecting and disconnecting beams, and all of a sudden this flow almost can really place the connectors wrongly after. It is a walk in the park or a walk in the office once it's set up correctly. Yeah, so it was actually a piece of cake to make this one. Different setting at one point. Like trying to get it into what it is now, like an office area. It was actually some things to plug the certain levels. That's where we came in, for instance.
I remember that before this we didn't have much variation in the levels and scenes, cubicles and stuff.
They were great because the cubicle was good because they don't fit into the system of modularity. You can place them wherever you can place them exactly. That was important for this level because it had to be a little bit some other levels like in the game weren't as easy to like figure out and implement. But luckily Matthias, the guy who was part of the
one time. Was good at framework stuff.
It was also our primary tester for a long time. So we tested on people outside the company. So we got a first-hand glance at what worked and what didn't work in puzzles. So he had like a bit of that knowledge and could quickly change up things. Sometimes he would also explain changes to the others of us in the company to use these. But it really sped up the process of once we had them string them together like this and taking them into levels was the next step. It was a big collaboration.
I think it's I just thought of something. It was actually funny reason for that is that right now it's like different fighting systems. And because our shadow system is very specific to specialize with this uses so much because otherwise we haven't all walls have a certain thickness. Sometimes we've broken it and we didn't notice until afterwards. But like no one
When you are working as an indie game development team and are first timers as we are, there are a lot of things you don't know, and there's a lot of things you don't know how to react to or expect how to react. So if you have the possibility, it's super important and good and can be helpful to work with contract workers who are very experienced and have been through this many times to help inject this experience into your project with things that you maybe didn't even know about, or things that you know about but you don't know how to solve it or don't have the time to solve it because there are a million other things you need to do. And we've been able to work with Alexander Institute here in Denmark, who we have been able to work with through some funding we got, and this funding is so important and crucial for us to be able to elevate the game and the shadows.
They work with the shadow system inside as well.
Yes, they did. And because we knew we had shadows, and we knew that was a problem, both especially visual
In terms of performance.
exactly. And we had tried to do something ourselves. We tried to do something with some people we knew and just talked about, but we could just see that it wasn't enough to fix the problem at its core and really make something different, make a difference in the game. And this is where we started working with Alexander Institute, and it's always super hard to like let go of your project, but it's the same thing with working with a publisher and stuff like that. You have to let go because if you just keep it to yourself, you will find out after you release your game and something like that you're actually losing more by keeping it. And it's so important that you share your projects, your visions, your ambitions, because otherwise you will never get a second opinion about it, and second opinion by experts is never a bad thing.
So, without going into too much technical details, with shadows in this game, like there are two things. One is the functional part, like how do we detect that a player is inside a shadow or not, and then there's the visual, like rendering these shadows. And from our initial prototype way back, we already kind of had a system for detecting shadows, where basically for each light in the scene we draw some lines down to the feet of the player, and then we see if they can actually hit the feet of the player. If they cannot hit it, then we will see not much something else. one point, then the tiniest shadow could kill the player. That is fairly simple to make, and we have had that for a long time in the game. But when the game became bigger and bigger, and the levels grew, then we got more lights into the level. And the problem with lights is that they are dynamic, and the way you draw the shadows, or the way you calculate shadows, is really expensive, because you use what is known as shadow mapping, where you basically imagine every light works as a camera as well, where it kind of takes a snapshot of what it can see. Yeah, so this was one of the puzzles that you designed. Can you talk a little bit about the story behind it?
Yeah, we had different periods where we all pitched in on ideas for puzzles, and in this period we needed more puzzles with sensor.
Yeah.
And some of the puzzles we made before was easy to make, and they just came to us, and this one was a bit harder.
Yeah, we did have some sensor puzzles going with the lamp, but now we needed it with the photon connector.
Exactly. Yes, and I think I actually made 5 different puzzles,
Yeah.
something like that,
Yes.
to come up with this. And the idea was that we wanted to be able to, we wanted to make it so that if the player put a light beam,
Yeah, you have these doors that open up and closes, and you have to kind of put it behind it.
yeah, the sensor controls the doors, and then the idea was that you should kind of break the beam, and close the door, and let the light beam, for its be in a specific place, and then use that later in the puzzle.
Yeah, and I remember when I played it the first time, it took a little while for me to understand that concept, but it was really nice to just leave it out in the darkness and then come back to it later. But I also remember that the first version of this level was way bigger and a little more confusing to look at. So that's also something we spent a lot of time on, making the initial layout of the level, but then trying to make it simpler and cut away the things that really contribute to the level. And oftentimes that means making it smaller and not having a large playable area, especially with something like this, where if you place the lamp one spot and then a couple of centimeters wrong, then it might not connect when you open the door. And that is annoying, so it should be really easy to just put it down.
Yeah, and I think Leslie did a really good job
Yes.
making this a lot smaller than it was from the start.
And it's funny when we design puzzles, different people in our team are really good at coming up with the idea and the concept, but other people are better at taking that and perfecting it, basically. And I guess we both just make crazy levels, and then somebody else takes it over and make it better and more readable.
It's also fun because we actually very different when we make puzzles. You like the Lego
Yeah.
thing, and I really like just playing with stuff in Unity, so that's kind of how I work. So
Yeah.
it's different.
But sometimes you also need to know where you want to end up, what is the plan for a level. Other times you just put a lot of stuff in, and then sometimes it works and some.
I've prepared the shutdown procedure. Now, pull the lever. Excellent. It worked. It's completely self-sustaining. Magnificent. Journalists, are you seeing this? Even without the mother sources, the core can power itself. Let's see. Crystals, stable. Energy levels, stable, although slightly decreased. And the shadow anomalies have not subsided. However, yes, Listen, we have exhausted all your options for exiting the facility, but since I now know what steps to take, I will fix the shadow anomalies. Now, I do not trust you around the core, so you're staying in that room. If you're hungry, well, the human body can survive 21 days without food. And as for water, I can turn on the sprinklers. Goodbye, journalist.
Whoever is listening to this, the core can't be shut down. It needs to be destroyed. Get to the control rooms surrounding the core and you'll be able to overload it. It will neutralize shadow anomalies everywhere. I tried to do it myself, but the core is surrounded by guards. And Virgil's onto me. Nobody here is facing reality. They're ready to follow Virgil off a cliff. No one is willing to help me. But I hope you will. First off, you need to reactivate the core. Once it's on, a sequence I created will give you access to the other control rooms. Don't worry, you won't be seen. When this recording triggered, it also deactivated most cameras surrounding the core. I know overloading it sounds dangerous, but trust me, you'll survive. Good luck.
Are you already that bored? What exactly are you expecting to achieve? Wait, why are the cameras? Oh, never mind. I'm sick of looking at journalistic piece anyway. Listen, if my control room bores you, then write an article about it. I have work to do. journalist. Tell me, what were you doing before I first spotted you? Stealing photon crystals? Stealing data from our servers? I know what you are. Spy! Did Arthur send you? Is your loyalty that blind? About that night, he tried to overload the core. shadows, and that's because of him! It's all because of Arthur! You're trapped. Our time together is finally at an end. Now watch as I close the gate and relegate you to darkness. Ah, James, you made it. You're just in time to watch this vermin get devoured by the shadows. Pest control. The applications for Lightmatter truly are... James, what are you doing? James, don't! James! You traitor! I thought you were better than this! Better than Arthur! Better than... You... don't pull that lever. Do you want money? Power? Please! I will give you anything! And Arthur, he can have Lightmatter. Just think about what you're throwing away! We can power the world! We can save humanity from pollution! We can save humanity from itself!
Lightmatter is ruined. I do not have the resources to set up another operation. Last year, 200,000 died from floods, 2.5 million died from pollution, 3.4 from starvation. Yes, I was reckless, but I was reckless for them. Every shortcut I took, every moral I compromised, was for their benefit. Yes, Lightmatter had issues. But now I'll never know if I could have solved it. I was never given a chance to see if I could have solved it. Their deaths are on